Part two.
We're back.
Part two of the first one. We said we'd speak about fasting, but it never happened. Got too off track. It's the Roundabout podcast now, where we
Literally.
don't stick on track with anything. But I'm going to speak a bit about fasting and nutrition for the second part. So I'm going to start with the fasting bit before people get annoyed at us.
For sure. So let's break down what we've been up to recently. Obviously,
This is like part two of the holiday thing, isn't it?
yeah, this is part two of
Specifically.
the holiday thing. So we've obviously both come back off holiday. You more recently than me. And when you're on holiday, as you should, we've thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
Definitely.
We've ate what we wanted. We've drank what we wanted. And thought it'd be appropriate to do a 3-day fast. So, yeah, let's talk about our experiences on that and what sort of stuff we found out about ourselves and etc. etc.
Yeah. I was going to say it's important, I think, to point out that after I came back, I had 2 days of normal eating, back to how I normally eat, and then I started the 3-day fast. I think if I was to go straight into the fast, you get off the plane, wake up the next morning, and I would have started then, I think it would have been probably not as beneficial.
I agree, and I've experienced this, you probably as well. I've experienced this when you have to cut weight for a fight and you start eating smaller portions, you start eating less calories, and because you're not kind of filling your stomach up fully, your stomach size starts to shrink. So the day of your fight, after you fought, you want to come home and have a massive munch.
Yeah, you're starving.
And you're starving.
You're starving, but when you come to eat, you actually can't eat that much, can you?
Yeah, exactly. Once you finish the fight, you're thinking, I'm going to have a massive meal, and you end up eating half of it and being full up because the size of your stomach is shrunk. So it goes the opposite way for when you've been eating a lot. When you eat more, and this is my experience as well, on the days that I eat more, I wake up more hungry because the size of my stomach has expanded, so it needs more to kind of to satiate it.
I always find when I stop eating 3 to 4 hours before I go to sleep, I never wake up hungry. But if I eat sort of within that time, say maybe like 2 hours before I go to sleep, depending on how the working day's been, I wake up hungry the next morning. So normally I'm fasting for at least 12 hours every night, just as I sleep. But I might have fasted for, say, 10 hours if I ate late and I wake up hungry. And I've never been able to figure out why.
For sure. So now it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the size of your stomach's getting a little bit bigger, and it's like, right, feed me more. So exactly like you said, the point you made is if you've been eating a lot on holiday anyway, you don't want to come home and calorie restrict, eat less, go on a 3-day fast like we just have, etc., because your stomach hasn't had enough time to kind of adapt back to at least normal size, because it's gone probably bigger than usual.
Yeah, definitely.
At least bring it back to normal size first, and then from there you can start to wean it back and start to make the size of your stomach smaller.
Because people like to do that, don't they? They go from one extreme to another.
For sure. It's called yo-yo dieting.
Yeah. That's a big Paul Check thing, isn't it?
It's a big Paul Check thing, for sure.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I got back, I think I landed early hours Sunday morning. Had Sunday sort of fairly back to normal. And then Monday was completely back to normal. And I thought, Tuesday I'll start the fast. And I was going to say, I think it's important to still get a few days worth of normal eating. Like you said, so your stomach sort of goes back to a normalish sort of size. And then at the same time, I think more importantly for me, it was just get some good quality nutrients back in.
For sure, because when you're on holiday, you're probably not eating the best quality and the most nutrient-dense food.
Yeah, I'm not having raw liver every morning, as usual. So stuff like that I missed out on. So I got back, got a couple of days of that in me, and then I thought I was ready then. Definitely.
I agree, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, but your fast was different to mine. Talk about that.
So obviously, I went on holiday maybe a month before Lou. about 3 weeks, I would say, 2 or 3 weeks. So I've had a much longer period of eating. Firstly, I would eat normal for the first 4, 5, 6 days, and then my normal intake of food, very much like yourself, is quite controlled and quite small anyway. I usually skip breakfast, kind of eat in the afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock, and then I'll eat straight after training, maybe 8 o'clock, and then I'm done for the day. So I probably had 2.5, maybe 3 weeks of doing that. So when I came to fasting,
We were saying we were going to do it at the same time.
we did, yeah. So when I came to fast and Lewis came to fast, Lewis did a full kind of water fast basically. Well, all he really had was maybe some green juice, some electrolytes, and
That was
water. That's it.
Just had a couple of electrolytes. First day I didn't have any, I don't think. And the second and third day, I felt like I needed a couple of them.
Whereas I had a small meal at the end of the day and fasted and did like a 24-hour fast. So I went dinner on a Monday night, did a 24-hour fast till the Tuesday night. I had a small portion of food, and then did the same for Wednesday and Thursday.
It was definitely easier for me though, wasn't it?
For
Because I was
sure,
fresh off the plane back
for
home.
sure. And I felt like you actually put a bit of weight on compared to
Oh, 100%.
me. I didn't really put much weight on coming back off holiday, so I didn't really have much to lose.
No,
You know what I
I put
mean?
on a good 4 or 5 kilos in 10 days. 100%.
Thoroughly
Like,
enjoyed
yeah,
yourself.
like a
Yeah. So
bottomless pit.
for me, doing a kind of 3-day water fast, it would be a little bit extreme. I can do it, but did I really need to do it? It didn't feel right for my body to do it, so I had a little bit of food.
Like I was saying, it was easier for me because I'd had the 10 days of shoveling as much shit into my mouth as possible. So then when I got back, I wasn't even really, like, for the couple of days, I didn't even really feel like eating that much. So, I mean, I'd put enough weight on, to compensate for that, for me to do a 3-day fast, but even still, because my stomach, it just took a battering. I was like, no, I'll be able to get away with it. Whereas you didn't put no weight on, you're already, like, very lean, so I don't think it would have served you much benefit.
For sure. And the reason why we're putting this out is because everybody's fast is going to be slightly different. Just like everybody's training is slightly different. Just like everybody's life is slightly different as well, So it's all circumstantial, isn't it?
I mean, why were we fasting? We've explained what we've done, but why? What was like the end goal for us? For people to get a full idea.
And what was your end goal, would you say?
I would say the main couple were lose that 5 kilos as quick as possible. But then even I've never properly fasted. I think the most I've done in my whole life is like 24 hours. And I wanted to see what all the hype's about, because you hear all this stuff about when you hit the 72-hour mark, you get all the growth hormone and shit like that. And then your autophagy and apoptosis gets boosted by like 300% or something stupid like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just wanted to see if I actually felt those benefits. And I mean, we spoke about apoptosis and autophagy in the past few episodes. And for those that haven't listened, they're just your body's recovery methods. When you go to sleep, gets rid of waste products and cancerous cells in your body.
Oh, yeah. We use the
So-
analogy of clearing the bins.
Yeah,
basically.
it was clearing the bins in the last episode, wasn't it? So I thought, if I've had the whole week, haven't worn my blue light glasses on a few of the nights, been eating loads of shit, drinking as much as I want, then I won't in those 10 days have cleared the bins out as much as what I normally would.
For sure.
So I was like, okay, let's see if this is true, try and get those benefits just so I can get back to normal as quick as possible.
I agree. And to be honest, that's what we spoke about. We said, because I haven't done a 3-day fast like that ever before myself, So doing a 24-hour, then another, back to back to back, with kind of really small portions of food to break that fast in between. Yeah, I wanted to see what it was like, just like you, bro. Um, and I did feel good to a certain extent. I felt like the longer it went on, though, the kind of...
Yeah, I was going to say break down each individual day
Okay, cool.
so people get like a good idea.
So for somebody who's never fasted before, in general, if you end up missing, well, if you're normally eating a lot of food anyway, firstly, I would start to slowly control them portions down slightly and kind of like reduce the size of your stomach to begin with, to before you even jump straight into a fast, because it can be a little bit dangerous for people who have never really experienced this. Your blood sugar levels can drop quite fast, and
It's a shock to the system.
it's a bit of a shock to the system. So just a warning there to you guys before you try it. Make sure
This
that
is
you...
not medical advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't listen to us two idiots on a
Yeah,
park bench.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, so kind of before I say that, I wanted to say that first. So like I said, I've had quite a bit of experience with doing 24-hour fasts in general anyway. So when you are at that level, you can kind of control your blood sugar levels a little bit, and you're not too affected by them when they do drop down to a certain level. Then what you'll find, if you skip, say for example, breakfast and lunch, and you only eat dinner from the night before to the night after, and have that 24 hours, is you start to notice that your body, once your blood sugar levels drop slightly, it starts to balance out a little bit. So your hunger doesn't actually get too uncontrollable. It gets to a point where it's kind of tolerable.
Your body is sending that hunger stimulus and it realizes it's not going to get fed.
Yeah,
So it's like, I'm just wasting my time at this point. Try to
pretty much.
stay in like homeostasis almost.
Exactly. So that homeostasis kind of occurs to where you get that balance of energy levels and concentration levels as well. At first, if you kind of do it for the first time and you fast and you skip a meal or two, you might feel a little bit dizzy, a little bit drowsy, a little bit nauseous. There's loads of different symptoms that you might experience. Once you're used to it, then you get to the point where you actually feel quite level-headed, quite concentrated. You kind of feel alert, like...
Do you think that's because it's like your body's way of priming you to go and hunt? It's like,
It is.
we haven't had food, we need max concentration levels, and
Just in case the opportunity for food comes along, we need to be able to be ready to take it, type of thing.
programmed into us.
Yeah, for sure. So you get that little bit of kind of... The best way to describe it is like you get your animal instincts back almost. Yeah. You feel a little bit more sharp. You feel a little bit more clear, a little bit more level-headed. So that's what you can expect if you train yourself into doing a 24-hour fast. And that's how I felt on the first day. Small meal. I had a little bit of meat, a bit of curry. Basically, is how I broke that fast. No bread, no salad, no anything else like that. Pretty much stayed in ketosis because I didn't have too many carbohydrates on the first day.
Yeah, I reckon we speak about that later.
For sure.
Ketosis in particular.
We can speak about ketosis. It's a totally different kind of subject matter. But yeah, I didn't break my fast with many sugars, with any fruit, with any vegetables. I had basically meat. So I went into the next 24 hours after that, still feeling pretty level-headed, kind of getting a little bit more tired now because my body's going into like battery saver mode almost, because it's like, shit, we haven't had much food here at all. So let's not be on full alert to where we're expending too much energy that we don't need to expend. Let's reserve slightly. And I felt that.
I was going to say, when you're lean as well, you've only got so many fat stores to use up.
For sure.
You're very limited.
By that time, I'd probably used up a lot of my fat stores, and I kind of knew that intuitively because I know my body, and I've been doing this type of stuff for a while. So on the second night, I broke my fast with a bit of fruit. So just that bit of sugar. Again, probably not enough to break my ketosis. It was a palm full of blueberries, a slice or two of mango, a little bit of melon, and I had like maybe a half an orange, something like that, all together. So a decent amount of carbs, and I felt really good after doing that. I felt alive. I slept well. I woke up the next day, and my third kind of day of fasting was again a bit like the first day because I'd got a bit more sugar in me, so I felt like I was back on that level-headed, concentrated, kind of hunter-gatherer mode again. And then I broke my fast properly on the third night, having beef burgers and potato, and I went in and really kind of satiated myself after doing the 3 days. So that was kind of my experience in a nutshell. But we'll break that down a little bit deeper with
Yeah.
with the ketosis and all that sort of stuff. But
I was gonna say my experience the 3 days. First day was fine, to be honest. Didn't go to bed hungry. I mean, throughout the whole 3 days, I didn't really feel hungry until maybe like the end of the third day when I was about to eat. Got like a bit of hunger, but like I said, because I'd battered the holiday so much, it was like my body didn't really need food. The only thing that I struggled with was like day one was fine. Day two started to feel a bit low energy, and the main thing was like my legs, my knees in particular, just felt like didn't have. They were like, I don't know, 75% sort of strength. I'd lost like 25% strength. The next day, on the third day, maybe like 60%. Like I felt like a significant decrease in strength in my legs just standing up and walking around. But I don't think my experience was anything like that drastic, to be honest. It wasn't anything significant in terms of what I spoke about at the start. In terms of autophagy and apoptosis getting boosted, I didn't really feel anything. If I'm being completely honest, like I was expecting to have like a little bit of mental clarity or, you know, improved sort of mood or something like that, but I didn't really get any of that at all.
for sure, something that I'll mention for my fast is I was quite active still. I didn't train. I trained on Monday night, then I had my last meal, then I did 24 hours from Monday night to Tuesday night. But I didn't train on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and I didn't do anything extreme. But I was quite active. So as a job, I'm a personal trainer. I do pads. Sometimes I spar clients. I was doing massages still. So I'm still expending a decent amount of energy, probably more than the average person still, by being active. So
But you'll
that's
have
something to consider when you are fasting, because probably in the future when we do a 3 day fast again,
fuck that.
if we do a 3 day fast
I
again,
had enough of that.
I'm probably going to be sitting off, doing next to nothing, having completely 3 days off, meditating, probably getting even more in tune with my internal kind of world and seeing how the fast can give me maybe more clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, kind of how can I get even more in touch with my body when I'm totally clear as a vessel, you know? So that might be something for the future, and something for you to consider when you're fasting is, what are my activity levels like? Have I got a really busy day? Am I doing a 9 to 5 where I've got to be totally
Yeah,
concentrated and I've got a meeting or I've got a presentation
yeah.
that day, or
Because like if
etc, you
like
know?
you were saying, if you've got a busy day and it's a high stress day, ultimately food is recovery. If you're eating
For
good food,
sure.
that is just to stress that point. So if you're having a busy day, stressful day, and you're not getting good food in to recover, then you might fall into that category of maybe fasting on that day might not be for you.
For sure. So you've got to really plan these fasts out and look at your activity levels, look at what you're doing in your day, what you've got planned, etc., etc., and then kind of do a fast according to that as well, you know. So how did you break your fast? What did you do for your first meal to break that fast?
One of the nicest bits of food I've ever had in my life.
That's
So,
one thing, sorry to interrupt, that's one thing that the fasting does do, is it makes you appreciate the fuck out of food.
yeah, definitely.
Your taste buds get
Yeah,
kind of more sensitive, and
yeah,
food tastes amazing.
yeah, it does. I was I stopped eating on the Monday night at 7:10, and then I ate again at 7:10 on Thursday. I had beef mince, potatoes, broccoli, all the organic food. I had a small block of raw cheese. I had 2 apples, and that was the happiest I've ever been on that Thursday night. Yeah, just devoured all of it.
So we both basically broke our fast with beef,
Yeah,
pretty much, with a
that
decent
wasn't.
amount of. It wasn't intended.
I was gonna say it wasn't even
Intended?
intentional. It was just
No,
what I've got in the fridge to pick out and
for
have.
sure. I think we both got our meat deliveries that day, so
Yeah,
the meat was fresh.
yeah.
And
Perfect.
once you've been fasting for 3 days, then it's kind of irresistible.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, for sure. So it's something to consider when you do break a fast. You don't want to go straight to McDonald's or or what have you, because
it defeats the whole point. Pretty much.
yeah, it
I've
defeats the whole point.
Rid my body of cancer. Let's just put loads of cancer back in.
Yeah,
Just,
pretty much.
Yeah.
So you do want to eat really clean, nutrient dense food. That's the key point that I want to make. Sorry, is what me and Lou both ate was organic, grass fed, straight from the farm, beef. Really high in calories, really high in nutrients.
Organic vegetables,
yeah,
fruit,
yeah, exactly,
dairy, and raw dairy. But we'll speak about that. Thinking a bit.
yeah, for sure, for sure. We obviously going to have to do a full podcast on the topic of nutrition, maybe a
Yeah.
few podcasts, because it's very deep, and yeah, we've kind of touched on it in the previous ones, but not
Not in depth at all.
yeah, not to the extent that we'd like to. So yeah, we'll save that, I guess. So we go on to ketosis and what ketosis is,
Yeah.
and basically why it's beneficial,
And why we were trying to get back to it after holiday.
yeah,
What the reasons are for that.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So let's just start. What is ketosis?
Ketosis, to put it in layman's term, is basically in our day-to-day current society, we have a pretty high carb, high sugar standard diet.
Junk food is just processed carbohydrates at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is, yeah, yeah, for sure. But even if you're not eating junk, you're eating toast in the mornings and you're having your orange juice, and then you're having a snack.
I mean, that can be junk,
you
though.
know,
Do you know what I mean?
For sure, it is. Well, it is according to us. But
I was going to say, so maybe orange juice, but then again, you go down the wormhole of, is it from concentrate or
all that, yeah.
is it not? So it's quite a sort of vague label, isn't it?
It is. So again,
And are you eating organic wholemeal sourdough bread, or you're eating Warburton's bread? I mean, big difference.
there's massive differences in all this stuff. But let's just say, in general, whether you're eating fully organic or not, most people don't really eat a ketogenic diet. A ketogenic diet is low carbohydrates, high fats, high proteins.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say high protein, like let's say optimal protein, optimal fat, because you can go optimal to high. It depends on kind of, again, kind of everything's a bit subjective that way, you know. But as a standard diet in our society, we have a high carbohydrate diet.
That's just Western diet as a whole.
That's Western diet.
High carbohydrates.
It is high. So high carbohydrate usually means high sugars.
Yeah.
High sugars means that your body primarily as fuel is using sugar for its fuel. So the main fuel source in your body is sugar or glucose.
And then because you're in such a surplus of carbs, that excess sugar is going to get stored as fat.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's just one of the small reasons as to why obesity is, quite prevalent in Western countries.
It is indeed. And then it becomes a kind of negative feedback loop, a kind of negative cycle where you end up having really high spikes of blood sugar levels, then they drop really quickly, and then you feel like you need to have something else to pick you up constantly.
That's just where the addiction comes into it.
That's where the addiction comes into it, exactly. And
it's not by coincidence that all this manufactured food is calculated. The sugar's in there for a reason, to make you buy more.
It is. So it never fully kind of satiates you. Yeah. So you always need to top it up with another snack, another biscuit, another energy drink, another this, another that, and it just keeps going. So it spikes up high, but then it drops high, so then you need to constantly...
Drops low, yeah.
It drops low, sorry, and then it constantly needs kind of replenishing. Ketosis is when you start eating lower carbs, your body doesn't have that high amount of carbohydrates or sugars to burn through, so it burns through them pretty fast. Then it starts burning into your fat for fuel. So when you start burning fat for fuel, it's a much more level...
That's how it's meant to be. That's what we're actually meant to
It's
use.
A much more level kind of energy source than sugar is. So that's why we experience that little bit of clarity, that little bit of kind of homeostasis, right? Our blood sugar levels are here and they're going to stay here for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 hours.
But yeah, when you're in aerobic respiration, you're burning fat as your primary source of fuel. And you're in aerobic respiration for most of the day. Even if you exercise, there's still only a short window of the day when you exercise. You go to work or you sit around or you're even asleep, you're in aerobic respiration where you need to be burning fat. So it only makes sense to have fat as sort of like the higher fat compared to high carb, to support that process.
It makes sense to have fat as your main fuel source because, like you just said, you're more aerobic for the majority of the day, and it's a much more stable kind of energy source than having to constantly top yourself up with sugars is.
Yeah, and it's very satiating. High fat foods like eggs or say fish or butter, they fill you up quite quick.
And just to clarify, when we say high fat, we don't mean... So there's different types of fats.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're saying high fat and high protein, low carbs. But I suppose from a macronutrient sort of standpoint, it would be that. But problem with macronutrients is it doesn't take into account quality. So we need to clarify, we prioritise quality over the quantity all the time.
Always. But when it comes to fats, you have saturated fats, you have unsaturated, you have polyunsaturated, you have trans fats and all that. It gets deep, but a lot of the bad fats, or why fat has a bad reputation, is because of the trans fats. It's because of these seed oils. It's because of the fat that you get from the grease from a chip shop or a doner kebab or a McDonald's type of fat. That type of fat is very hard for your body to digest and break down because that fat is artificial fat.
It's so highly refined.
It's very, very highly refined and it's artificial. So because it's kind of alien to your body, because we've only just been kind of introducing this type of fat into our diet, maybe 100, 200 years max. Yeah, exactly.
We've had billions of years of evolution and programming, and in the past 100 years of that, you've had this new fat introduced to the system. It doesn't know how to handle it.
And your body doesn't know how to handle it, exactly. So when your body doesn't know how to handle something, it kind of stores it as fat cells. It it kind of engulfs it in fat and leaves it off to the side and
Yeah.
says, right, we'll burn that off later when we get time to. And oftentimes, again, this is another reason why we fast, is to give your body a break from digesting food. It requires a large amount of energy for you to digest your food. If I eat a Mars bar, for example, my body works extremely hard to turn that Mars bar into my living cells for me to use as energy and as fuel.
Because it's not a living food.
It's not a living food, exactly. So my body's working extremely hard when I am eating food that is artificial, processed, etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
I was going to say the reason that you feel sluggish after eating junk food, even though it's high calories on paper, I mean, your body doesn't operate on paper, does it? The reason you feel sluggish is because your body's had to go through quite a strenuous task of digesting your food. You know, it goes through the whole digestive process, comes to the end where you need to extract the nutrients from the food, and there's no nutrients there to extract. So then it just gets passed straight out, or like you said, just stored as fat. So it's gone through that whole process and it hasn't got the reward at the end. So
It
it's been
has,
you've expended energy to digest. Then when you need that reimbursement of energy, there's none there. It's just low quality, no nutrients, so your body can't utilize it properly.
exactly right. Well put. And that's why we prioritize quality of food over quantity of food, because you could eat loads of the wrong type of food, and like Lewis saying, your body is straining itself to digest it, and it's not getting the nutritional kind of reward for straining itself.
Yeah.
Whereas if you eat something that is really high quality, if you eat a organic, grass-fed, wild, or whatever living animal or living vegetable, fruit, then it's much easier for your body to turn that into living cells because it was once living not long ago, you know. So that's very important for you to be aware of. So when it comes to fat and protein, I'll just label these kind of the way Paul Check does, because it's
I
very
was I was
easy.
just about to say that, yeah.
It's very easy for you to understand it that way. You have what Paul Check calls, he calls eyes and no eyes. So foods which have eyes, like living animals, fish, beef, chicken, a cow,
Just any animal food, pretty much, isn't it?
pretty much all animal food that have a set of eyes are in the fat and protein
Yeah.
side of the macronutrient
Yeah.
profile.
Literal eyeballs.
Yes, yes. So they're the eyes section of food. Then you have the no eyes. Vegetables don't have eyes. Fruits don't have eyes. Flour doesn't have eyes.
Honey.
Honey doesn't have eyes, etc. And that is the no eyes section of food. And that is categorized as carbohydrates pretty much. So all of your vegetables, all of the foods that don't have a set of eyes
Plants.
are basically carbohydrates.
Yeah.
All the foods that do have a set of eyes are basically higher in fat and protein. So when we say we have a higher fat diet in general, because we would like to stay in ketosis, we mean that we eat more animal food, we eat more meat, we don't eat as much fruit, vegetables, etc., etc. Partly because, again, this is probably another topic, another podcast. Mostly because we live in the UK, we live in a very high altitude or latitude, sorry, and here in this country, not many fruits, vegetables grow year round. In the summer, they do. We can get away with eating a bit more carbohydrates in the summer, but especially in the winter time, we have to eat mostly eyes because that's all that nature really provides.
We spoke about this in one of the other podcasts, but you look around in nature and you look what animals are eating in your environment, and they're either hibernating because there is no food, or they have to go and hunt and get an animal. There's no other options in nature. So, like when it's 31st of December and you decide that I want to get stuck into the gym, and you're eating a high carb diet, even though it's freezing cold outside and your environment isn't providing you any carbohydrates in nature, then that's your sign not to eat them. That's going to throw your system off completely.
does. And then we can tie this back to light and how food is a manifestation of light pretty much, and then you need the sunlight to be able to digest the food
Yeah.
that you're having, and then etc
Yeah.
etc. We
Go
can go
go
down
back
that
and
way. Yeah,
catch up.
yeah. So we have mentioned that, so go and rewind on the previous podcasts and watch that. But yeah, so in general, that's what ketosis is. I will mention leptin, because leptin and insulin are basically closely related.
Yeah.
Insulin is what controls your blood sugar levels, and when you eat a high carbohydrate diet, then your insulin sensitivity starts to decrease. You
Yeah.
get a little bit more kind of resistant to insulin, so you end up needing more sugar, more carbs to get that same level or that
Yeah.
same hit.
It's the same, just apply it to anything like smoking, nicotine. Someone who smokes or vapes, over time they end up having more and more because, like you said, they become more resistant to the substance.
And you need more to get to that same level of experience. So
But that's how people become diabetic.
it is exactly how people become diabetic, bro. So it's very important for you to do these sort of fasts, because it regains the sensitivity to insulin, to blood sugar levels, to your leptin cycles.
But what is leptin? Just so we don't leave that out.
Probably
It controls your weight, doesn't it? It controls your how satiated you are.
it does, yeah. It controls exactly. Let's put it in simple terms, because we can get quite deep with that, and we don't
Yeah.
want to go too deep down a kind of rabbit hole. But basically, like you just mentioned, exactly what that is. It controls your blood sugar levels. It controls how satiated you feel. It controls whether you should be increasing in weight or decreasing in weight. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what that is in a nutshell.
Yeah. But just going back to when we were saying about how the light cycles affects how, if we have carbohydrates in our environment or not. So when the light cycles are long in the summer, we have carbohydrates in abundance pretty much. There's loads of strawberries and different fruits growing. And then when it comes to winter, it's the opposite. Short light cycles means no carbohydrates, and we should just mostly be eating fat and protein. When Paul Chek describes these different types of foods, he says that the no eyes, which are the plants, carbohydrates, they're the cooling foods. They cool you down. So when you eat them in the summer and you have more of them than normal, it's going to help cool you down. And then by eating fat and protein in the winter, they're going to warm you up, to help you face
Yeah,
the winter.
yeah, yeah. In general, for sure, that's how it works.
I mean, because that's another reason why animals hibernate. They stuff as much food in them as they can over the summer, as many carbs as possible, put on as much fat as possible. Because then when the winter comes and they have to hibernate, there's no food in the environment for them to eat. They're just burning through them fat stores
Exactly.
as the cold comes.
So nature, that's the way nature works. You get a surplus, then you got to fast, basically. So we should be kind of following nature's cycles and giving ourselves that little bit of surplus every now and then kind of restricting back and having them fast as well, because it's important as well not to be at a level to where you fast or eat minimally all the time as well, because that stresses your body out, because your body's constantly like, oh,
Like survival mode almost.
It's in survival mode. So when you do, and people experience this when they diet, they go on a low calorie diet for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and they start to lose a decent amount of weight, and then it stops, because your body's like, right, I understand now that we're only getting this much amount of food, so this is the level that we're going to stay at.
It's what I need to operate on.
This is the level that we have to operate at.
Yeah.
Then what the trick, or what usually does the trick, is if you eat a surplus of calories for a day or two, your body then starts to kickstart its metabolism a little bit more.
That's what I was just going to say.
And then it starts to lose weight again.
When you go too low for too long, your metabolic rate just plummets.
It does.
So, like you said, by having that surplus or not doing it for too long, you're going to keep your metabolic rate at a normal level. It's not going to crash too low.
Yeah, because the extremities on either way are no good. We want to kind of play around with both sides. Sometimes go a little bit extreme one way, then bring it back to homeostasis, i.e., balance, and then you kind of restrict it for a little bit, and then you come back to balance again, and you keep playing with them. That's the best way for you to keep kind of your body sharp and ready to do whatever, whether it's a fast or whether it's a feast. Your body's accustomed to being there when it's in the surplus or when it's in kind of super restriction as well. So
What else should we touch on? What was that going to do us, do you think? Anything else?
I'll touch on this dead quickly, but this is probably going to be in a separate podcast, to be honest, because it goes quite deep. But Paul Chek has what he calls the 4-day rotation diet.
Yeah.
I'll mention this as well briefly because oftentimes, and this is just the way modern society is, we tend to eat the same types of foods over and over and over and over and over again.
Especially if someone's stuck in the conventional diet sort of thing.
For sure. We end up having a pattern. Oh, I eat eggs every day, and then I eat for breakfast, and then I have usually this or this for lunch, and then usually I have a kind of option between this or this for dinner. You know what I mean? And it usually just cycles the same stuff all the time.
I remember him saying recently, people don't eat more than like 12 foods in the whole life.
It's crazy, and we have hundreds of thousands of different animals to choose from. We have almost a million, probably millions of different no-eyes foods, so aka carbohydrates, aka
Yeah,
fruits and veg to choose from as well.
I was going to say, this is assuming that you're not sticking to the local and seasonal eating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like
sure.
that,
But
I suppose
but even let's use UK as an example. Even in the UK, there is a lot of food here. Nettles, for example, nobody eats or drinks
nettle soup,
nettle tea, nettle soup. All these type of things. You have so many different types of berries. There is a large variety of things that grow, but again, because of corporations and because of the way the farmers work and how they need to make a living via profit, they usually only produce certain crops that have the highest yield, that have the highest return on investment, basically
to maximise profit.
Yeah, exactly. So we all end up eating the same types of stuff, and I'll use a bodybuilder as an extreme example, or I'll just use in general. If I was to eat chicken and broccoli for breakfast, and then chicken and broccoli for dinner, and chicken and broccoli for tea, and then the next day I did the same thing, and then the next day I probably did the same thing. Maybe after 2 days, 3 days, I'd feel physically sick off of looking at chicken and broccoli because my body just could not handle any more of it. And that is nature's way of telling you, stop eating the same stuff. We need different nutrient profiles. You're getting the same things in your system constantly, and eventually, if you do that for long enough, you end up actually becoming intolerant to that food, and you eating it, even if you force yourself to eat it, you'll probably be sick. So what Paul Chek has done is he's understood and realized that if I ate chicken breast and broccoli, say right now, for my body to fully assimilate, digest, and eliminate the chicken and broccoli totally out of my system, it takes on average about 4 days. So if I eat chicken and broccoli on a Monday, for example, and I have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then you want to eat chicken and broccoli maybe not the Tuesday, not the Wednesday, not the Thursday, but maybe on the Friday or the Saturday. So it gives your body enough of a break from that specific kind of nutrient profile for you to then eat something else on a Tuesday. Maybe you have beef and potatoes on a Tuesday, for example, and then on a Wednesday you might have fish, and then on Thursday you might have, I don't know, pork or duck or something else, or even go vegetarian. So if you do 4-day rotation like that, again, we'll go a little bit more in details about that, then it gives your body enough chance for it to fully digest and assimilate whatever you're having, but it also makes you eat a variety of food, because we don't do that often enough in our kind of modern day society. We tend to eat the same stuff, and then eventually you end up becoming actually intolerant to that food, even if it is healthy. Your body starts to reject it. So that's just something to be aware of.
I was gonna say, I personally don't stick to that. I don't. I've tried it, but to be honest, I just find it a hassle.
It is a bit of a hassle, to be fair.
I feel fine eating. I mean, it's always one of them where you think you're fine, but
Until you're not fine.
I was just say there might be more room in the tank, to feel even better. But even still, I don't think I'd feel much benefit. I mean, even when I tried it, like I said, it was a bit of a hassle and it was more stressful. Like, I had strawberries 2 days ago. It's like, I need to pick something else. I just thought, for me, that wasn't that good.
I think it's something for people who are eating very, very, very similar foods, eating like the exact same things, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and constantly
You
for
mean
too long.
on repeat?
On repeat,
Okay.
yeah. It's more so for that, to break that kind of cycle up. But no, I agree. What I tend to do, in my experience of it, is I don't go too extreme with that. What I tend to do is I just keep my keep my keep the section of food that are kind of eyes in my diet as different. So I'll have, say, chicken on a Monday, fish on a Tuesday, beef on a Wednesday, and maybe lamb on a Thursday or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'll just tend to rotate that. I won't really rotate my no eyes food that much. Every now and then I will, but again, I do try to eat a variety, kind of whenever possible. But like you said, it is a little bit extreme, and it takes a bit of effort, to be fair. But one very good thing that it does do as well is it makes you eat fresher food, because you buy that
Yeah.
4 days worth of food in one go, and then 4 days later you have
Yeah.
to go shopping again, and then eat another 4 days worth of, or shop for another 4
Yeah.
days worth of food.
Otherwise, it's going to go to waste. So
It does, yeah.
that's a good point, actually.
That's one good thing that it does make you do. Stops you eating frozen food shite, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our brief podcast on fasting. We've touched a little bit on
I was scraping the surface for nutrition.
that's definitely scraping
Like
the surface
like I said,
on nutrition.
we didn't even speak about raw dairy. Like I said,
No,
we'd
for
speak
sure.
about, or just like nutrition as a whole. Yeah, that can be another one.
There's a lot, and then you got the Paul checks. Is it the tachometer as well?
Yeah.
We've
I don't
again,
think
we
spoke
mentioned
about
it
that yet.
slightly, but there's a lot of us. There's a lot of information rather to cover. So catch you on the next one, I
Yeah,
guess,
we'll
guys.
leave that for next week.
Exactly. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll try our very best to accommodate you guys as much as possible. But yeah, nutrition is very deep. We didn't even. Again, you have the physical side of nutrition. You have the mental, emotional, spiritual side of nutrition, and all of that. Again, we've mentioned it.
That can be the notes now.
Yeah.
For next week's. Yeah.
Yeah. So next week we'll probably dive a little bit deeper into nutrition.
Yeah. We'll start with that. We'll see
We'll,
where we go.
Yeah. We'll just concentrate on a couple of topics and really dive deep and give you the full kind of spectrum of it before we move on to something else.
Yeah. Do that then.
Cool.
Right. See you next week.
Catch
We'll
you
do
on
that
the next
one.
one.